What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back, this time with more of a Major League Baseball video, but you could consider it a Seattle Mariners video. We're going to break down a couple trades that have gone down in the MLB in the last 24 hours. Before I get started, please hit that like button for me. If you're new to the channel or you just kind of like to lurk around and watch my videos, if you can, please hit the subscribe button. I know there's a lot of channels that I used to do that with. I'd kind of lurk on and just watch, and I'd sit there and go, oh, I'm not even subscribed to this guy or girl, and I watch all their videos. So if you can, if you're one of those people, just hit the sub button for me. It helps me out a whole lot. As you can see, I do apologize, the lighting's not great in here. We are making some big upgrades on the channel with the equipment. We've already got the mic in. I've got two massive monitors right beside me here. I'm just waiting for the hard drive to come in, as well as some other cool gadgets. Got my new keyboard and everything. So we're going to be cooking with fire very soon here on the channel and making some major upgrades to the quality. The content will be the same, just me talking baseball and football as we get into football season. So two kind of, one major trade, one kind of, semi-major. Just gone down the last 24 hours. The Angels acquired Reynaldo Lopez and Lucas Giolito from the Chicago White Sox, and the Milwaukee Brewers have acquired Carlos Santana, former Mariner for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Just want to talk a little bit about both those trades and how they pertain to the Mariners and to those teams in general. The Angels-White Sox trade, I'll probably focus more on what it means for those teams, whereas the Brewers-Pirates one, I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe what it means for the Mariners. So let's get into it. The Angels yesterday acquired starting pitcher Lucas Giolito and reliever Reynaldo Lopez for two of their top three prospects, Kai Bush, left-handed pitcher, and Edgar Quero, I hope I said that okay, catching prospect. They go from the Angels to the White Sox. Giolito and Lopez go from the White Sox to the Angels. Lopez really had a breakout season last year, hasn't been quite as good this year, and Giolito's a solid starting pitcher. I mentioned him as a potential target for the Mariners. I wouldn't say anyone that's amazing, but certainly a decent starting pitcher and an upgrade for that rotation that does need some starting pitching. Now, if you go around Twitter and social medias, the initial reaction seems to be that the Angels overpaid and this is not a good move for the Angels. Now, I do think the Angels probably did overpay. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad move by the Angels. In fact, I actually think it's a smart move, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's a smart move for the Angels. First, let's talk about the prospects. Both had nice years last year, but have not been quite as good this year. Especially Quero has taken a little bit of a step back in his Double-A promotion this season, so he hasn't been quite as dominant. Like I said, these two rank number 2 and 3 for the Angels prospects in their farm system, but the Angels farm system is not that great. So I do wonder where these guys would rank in maybe a more stacked MLB team's farm system. I don't know if they'd be quite as high. So from that perspective, I think you're okay trading them away. Like I said, it is an overpay because they are two of the better prospects in your system. And Giolito's, you got him for a half season. I'm not sure what Lopez's contract looks like, but Giolito's obviously the big piece here. But let's look at it from the Angels' perspective. You're probably losing Shohei Ohtani next season. Mike Trout continues to be banged up. This is now, the third, fourth year in a row he has missed significant time with injury. I'm not saying it's the end of Mike Trout, but you've got, assuming Trout comes back, you've got this half season left of these two superstars on your team. You've got to try something. They're playing better. I think they're 4 back of a playoff spot, and I believe they swept a doubleheader today. So that's going to put them 3 games out. You might as well go for it if you're the Angels. And at this point, when they lose Ohtani and inevitably Trout at some point, that team is going to be such a mess that no prospects are going to save you from it. Especially Quero and Bush were not going to be guys that were going to save this franchise after Ohtani and Trout were traded. And the Angels do have Logan O'Hoppe, their number 1 prospect, a catching prospect who, I don't know if he's up right now. He has been up this season, I know. So I hate saying like Quero's blocked by anybody because you never want to look at prospects so much through that, like saying, oh, this guy's expendable because he's blocked. But it certainly does make him more likely to be traded when you've got the prospect right above him is also a catching prospect. So when I look at it from that perspective, I actually don't think it's a bad move by the Angels. Like I said, they're likely losing Ohtani anyways here at the end of the season. Again, we don't know Trout's status, and when those two guys are finally gone, or like Ohtani probably next year, and again with Trout's injury stuff, who knows? Trout is now in that veteran status as a player. That team's going to be kind of a mess. I don't mean that maliciously. It's just what it is. And they have not made the playoffs yet together. The Angels have, I think they now have the longest drought in baseball, them and the Tigers. It's been 2014 since the Angels have made the playoffs. You might as well see if you can get in. See if you can sneak in as a third wild card, and you never know. You never know what can happen in a playoff series. So I think from their perspective, it's one more chance to sort of justify some of the spending they've done. Now, like in a vacuum, do I mind the move? I don't think it's bad. In the grand scheme of things, yeah, the Angels have put themselves in positions where the few prospects they do have, they're kind of forced to trade because they haven't done a very good job surrounding Trout and Ohtani with enough talent to get over the top. So from that perspective, it's bad. But the Angels are kind of that, like, they're pot committed. Eventually you're in a poker hand. Like, you've put so many chips in there, you've kind of got to see it through. And that's sort of, in my opinion, where the Angels are. So I don't want to come off like I'm praising the move. I do think it was probably an overpay. And if I'm the White Sox, I'm happy with that deal. But I don't think it's like some terrible, terrible move by the Angels either. And they're going for it. And that's, I commend teams that do that and that they're taking a shot at it. And Giolito's going to help them. Now, another reason this deal isn't as good is because Giolito's a free agent at the end of the season. So that's certainly, if Giolito had another year of club control, that deal would look a little better as well. And if Lopez was pitching more like last season, I would also say a better deal. But, maybe Lopez turns it around in a new scenery. The Angels could always use bullpen help. We know that. And Giolito does help them. Do I think it puts them over the top? No. And then Ohtani left today with an injury. Hope everything's okay there. I don't think the Angels get in, but they did get better. And like I said, a team that's about to lose probably its best player in the offseason, while you've got him, it's worth it to give it kind of one final shot here to see what can happen. And we know in baseball, like, it's not like football where teams get bye weeks. Well, I guess they do now, because you don't have to play in the wild card round. So there are byes now in baseball. But you guys know what I mean. I think it's a little more common for baseball teams to make a wild card run. So we'll see. Again, overpay, probably. But to recap it, but I also think Angels prospects are probably a little overrated because it's not a very deep farm system. So I'd be curious where these guys would rank, in other farm systems, kind of, to be honest with you. I think Quero is a little blocked by Ohapi, which makes him more expendable. I think both those guys were not as flashy this year as they were last year. And I think it's an Angels team that has given themselves a better chance now to make the playoffs. Again, overpay, yes. Bad deal, not necessarily. On the other hand, the Milwaukee Brewers have acquired Carlos Santana from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they gave up, let me just pull it up here real quick. Apologize for the delay. Let's see, who did they give up? It was like a shortstop prospect or something. It wasn't anybody major. The Pirates received 18-year-old shortstop Johnny Severino, who signed with Milwaukee for $1.23 million last year, is currently playing in the Arizona Complex League. So a very, very young, raw player who I think I'm assuming was an international free agent signing by the Brewers. So they get him in exchange for DH first baseman Carlos Santana. Now, in terms of that deal, I'll be honest, the Pirates are obviously falling out of it after a nice start, so they're trading away guys, makes sense. I don't follow the National League enough to know what all the Brewers necessarily need, but I did want to look at this trade a little bit from the Mariners' perspective. Now, a lot of people, and truth, we'll look at the Giolito trade from the Mariners' perspective as well. A lot of people in Mariners fandom were hoping the Mariners would reacquire Carlos Santana, and not a lot of them, but there were some voices out there hoping that he would come back. If you don't know, the Mariners acquired Santana last year before the trade deadline when Ty France was hurt, and while Santana's numbers maybe weren't amazing, he proved to be a very clutch hitter, had some big moments with the team, and proved to be a net positive and was a good clubhouse guy as well. Would I have been against the Mariners reacquiring Carlos Santana? No, I don't think it would have been a bad bat to add. Good veteran presence. Can maybe even platoon with Mike Ford a little bit. Santana can hit lefties, Ford hit righties. But the bottom line is Santana has not been great this year. He's still not an amazing hitter, and he hasn't even been very clutch. You look at his numbers, I believe in the 7th inning on, and he's got like an OPS of 5 something. So he really has not necessarily been a clutch. Now, I'm not someone that really necessarily believes in clutch in terms of one hitter's more clutch than another. I think clutch exists in a vacuum. Like, they can have a season where they're clutch, but I don't believe that overall, like, Carlos Santana has something in him that makes him more clutch. The problem is it's another, and it's why I don't think this team's going to be heavily invested in bats at the deadline. It's just a lot of mid, that's out there. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that adding Carlos Santana moves the needle all that much, and I don't really want to give up anything for a rental. Now, Santana's wasn't going to be expensive, so you probably would have given up nothing to get him. But again, unless you're platooning him with Mike Ford, and then it just adds another no fielding, no glove DH type player to the team. We already have Mike Ford doing that. It kind of the same way I feel about Nelson. Remember when I talked about the Nelson Cruz trade, I said no thank you? Kind of how I feel here. Now, Santana's better than Nelson Cruz at this point, so I would have been okay with it. But I just don't think it moves the needle in any way had the Mariners acquired Santana. I don't think it makes up the gap. Now, no player they're going to acquire is going to individually make up a 4.5 game gap for a playoff spot. But I really do think in terms of bats for the Mariners to add at the deadline, I've mentioned Brent Rooker. That would be an interesting one because Rooker's actually had a really solid season. Again, probably more of a platoon player. Actually, not really. He's hit righties pretty well too. Even if you wanted to platoon him, and he has some value, he can play the outfield for you, especially with the Jared Kelenic injury. Might make some sense. Problem for Santana is his bat's okay, and he has no fielding ability. So maybe with Ty France struggling, you could have done it, put Santana at first base, but I don't know if you can really bench Ty France. You can, obviously, you can do whatever you want to do, but I don't know if that's the right move. I think for right now, your best bet is that Ty France plays better baseball, then you see what you can do in the offseason, and maybe hope you can get something in a trade there and see what ends up coming up. But I don't think Santana for France is necessarily the move to make either there. So again, would I have been fine with the Mariners making that move? Yeah, I don't think it would have hurt them in any way, but you're not gonna find me crying in my sleep that the Mariners didn't reacquire Carlos Santana. I think it would have been more of a remember the good times type move than an actual huge net gain for the team. As far as the Giolito trade and how it impacts the Mariners, probably fairly significant. The Angels are a team ahead of the Mariners, and they did just get better for 2023. Now, we'll see what this trade ends up meaning for them in 2025, 2026. But right now, we're living in 2023, so who cares what happens in 3 years, 2-3 years. The Angels are one of the teams above you, and they did get better. Giolito is a good starting pitcher. Is he a Cy Young candidate? No. But he is a good veteran starter that's going to give you innings, that is capable of tossing quality innings and giving you quality starts and getting your ball club some wins. So from that aspect, it does absolutely affect the Mariners. I don't think it moves the needle to where I'm like, oh, the Mariners are out of this or anything. But it does kind of, puts a little pressure on you. When teams above you are making moves, it makes a little bit harder on you. And the Angels are one of the teams above the Mariners. So we'll see what ends up happening. The trade deadline's coming up in 6 days. I talked a little bit about my live stream yesterday, what I think the Mariners are going to do. I think they're going to get a little creative. I see it being very, very similar to 2021. They were in about the same position, maybe a little bit closer to a playoff spot. They added a veteran starter in Tyler Anderson. I think you're going to see something very similar where they add a veteran starter that might be a free agent at the end of the year just to help this rotation that is very young right now with Wu and Miller. Add some depth to it and give you a guy that can maybe even make it a 6-man rotation. And I think that's what their goal is. And Jerry DiPoto even talked about that as a possibility, a 6-man rotation. It's because with Wu and Miller, not necessarily the innings limits, but just trying to keep those guys fresh for the playoffs. And with Marco Gonzalez showing no signs of coming back, I do think the Mariners add a veteran starting pitcher. Paul Blackburn's a name I've mentioned a few times. Giolito was one of those names, though I don't think the Mariners one, I don't think they had the pieces. I don't think they had necessarily the top line prospects to get that done. I mean, unless you're trading a Cole Young or something, which I would not have wanted to do for Giolito. But, you know, someone like Blackburn or a lefty starter. I'm trying to think. I didn't have any names written down here. But if there's like, you know, I'm going to say a name. We're just because Pittsburgh's on the mind. Rich Hill, you know, someone like that can give you some veteran innings and can just help limit, you know, the amount of innings for Wu and Miller. I know those aren't sexy names, and you guys, oh, what do you mean? That's probably what they're going to do. Maybe a little bit better than Rich Hill, but you guys know what I'm getting at there. I've talked about Brent Rooker as a possibility. And then relief pitching, I think they get creative like they did in 21. In 2021, they traded Kendall Graveman for Abraham Toro. I think, and then they went out and got Diego Castillo for JT Chargois, and I don't remember the other guy they traded for him, but they went out and got Castillo after trading Graveman. I think, again, that's something similar that this team does this year. I think they maybe trade Paul Sewald. I would look this weekend. They're in Arizona. Arizona could use a reliever. DePoto, and I'm not even sure who the D-backs GM is, but they're probably going to be in the same building. Remember when the Graveman trade happened, the Mariners were playing the Astros. So when you're playing a team, you can have those in-person conversations. Excuse me, so I wouldn't be totally shocked. It's a good fit if something worked out there between the Diamondbacks and the Mariners for Paul Sewald. Then I expect the Mariners to go out and get another reliever to kind of offset the move. And they look at it and they say, listen, we've got Munoz, we've got Brash, we still got Topa, Spire, these guys that can get outs, and we can add some good prospects and maybe even some major league ready talent for Sewald and go out and get another reliever to offset it. I know that might have some people up in arms, but it's what they did in 21. It's actually not a dumb idea. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, trade Spire, trade Topa. Those guys are not going to get you much in return. You can do that. I'm totally fine with that. But Gabe Spire and Justin Topa are going to get you C-, D+ prospects. Guys that are just going to get lost in the shuffle, and you're probably never going to hear their names again. Very similar, and I could maybe they got some I don't remember, but remember they traded Hunter Strickland and Roenis Elias in 2019. I could be eating words here because maybe those prospects did become somebody, but I don't think it was names we ever really heard much of. It was Taylor Gelbaugh, whatever, the reliever, who was gone in 2020. So it's going to be guys like that. That's what you're going to get. They're just not proven commodities. Do I think they would get something? Absolutely. I think you absolutely could get something for Topa and Spire, but nothing exciting. Paul Sewald, who's got a track record, who's pitched in the playoffs now, who's going on his third straight year of being a really, really top-of-the-line reliever and one of the better ones in the American League for 3 years, is absolutely going to net you a positive return. To make money, you know what I mean? It's kind of like pay to play. Not to make money, but to pay to play. You can get Tim and go, ooh, trade Spire, trade Topa. Not going to get you anything, guys. I'm telling you, you're not going to get anything fun for Topa and Spire. You're almost better off keeping those guys. They're probably more valuable to you, honestly, to get back in the race. See if you can get something shiny for Paul. I'm not saying trade Paul Sewald no matter what. I would want something kind of major league ready in return. And there are a few names in the Diamondbacks that could be major league ready that could help you out there. Who's the outfielder they have? 25 years old. I think he's in AAA. Very similar to Mitch Haniger, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Let me see if I can pull it up, actually. I'm looking up Carlos Santana trade again. Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's see if he's on the 40-man here. Just going to pull this up real quick. If I see the name. Oh, our old friend Kyle Lewis. Give me 1 second, guys. I don't see it. You do have like Josh Rojas might be interesting. Who's the name I'm thinking of? Let me see here. Again, I hope you guys are sticking with me. I apologize. That's what happens when you do a lot of these videos on the fly here. Let's see. Is he in AAA? If I see the name, I'll know it. Where is the roster? You guys are very much enjoying me going through. Oh my gosh, come on. Could they make this any less? Team, active roster. This is all for a player that, like, I just can't remember his name. Oh, Joe Mantiply is still in AAA. Is it Cole Sulser? Is that who I'm thinking of? No, he's a pitcher. He's 33. Okay, that's a veteran. Why am I having trouble remembering who this is? Oh, probably because I'm in pitchers. That would be why. Oh my gosh. If you guys are still watching at this point, kudos to you. Okay, I'm not sure who it was. Let me see the AA. Okay, I'm back. I looked it up. I finally just put the video on pause and looked up the name. Dominic Canzone was the name I was looking for. Might be someone interesting from the Arizona Diamondbacks that you could possibly get for Paul Sewald. Jonathan India from the Reds might be available as well. Looks like the asking price is very, very high. But we know how that goes with trades. Like, asking prices are always super high. And then I would say the Reds might hold to that because they're probably not desperate to trade India. But curious if that would come down, and that could be your long-term answer at second base. Bottom line, I think what the Mariners are going to look for at the trade deadline, maybe a starting pitcher for just this year, very similar to Tyler Anderson. I think they might look to offload a guy like Paul Sewald, especially in the bullpen where they've had so much success taking guys like Paul Sewald, like Topa, and turning them into good relievers. So I think they'd be willing to trade him for a decent haul. And I think position player-wise, maybe if you're looking at a stopgap, a guy like Brent Rooker. If not, you're looking for more 2024 type players, guys that aren't just going to be rentals. I don't think this team is in a position to go get a bunch of rental players. Dipoto even mentioned that. I think there's a couple that you'd look at that won't be too expensive that can help you out. And hey, if we make it, great. If not, whatever. But this team's not in a position to be going crazy on rentals. If they're 4.5 games up on a playoff spot, sure, then go for it. But they need to be careful because they're not in the playoffs right now. They're still about 5 games out, so they've got work to do. I will see you guys all tomorrow for the live stream for the Mariners and the Diamondbacks. Hope everybody has a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed my takes. Thank you for holding on with me for the last 3 minutes there as I dug for names that I could not remember. So I appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great day. Let me know what your thoughts were on the trades. Bottom line on them, the Santana trade's kind of whatever to me. And I think the Angels were smart. I think they should be going for it. They have nothing to lose at this point. Their farm system's not loaded. They're going to lose Ohtani. Who knows with Mike Trout what you're looking at. If you've got a chance to do something this year for the Angels, try and get in and do it. So that's my take on it. Have a great night, everybody, and take care. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.